We ain't gonna be sniffing your usual florals. We ain't gonna be sniffing roses and jasmines. I paid my tribute to roses, including morning roses. You can watch those videos on my channel. There are hundreds of them. I mean, they're not all about morning roses, but legit, I have like hundreds of recommendations for you. If you want to binge, go ahead. 99% of my recommendations stand. Kisses to the chefs who've made those wonderful scents. That said, we're going to be diving head first into the flowers that break the rules. We're going to be talking about scents that surprise us, and yet they express the quintessential core of what spring is all about. The first, watch me weaving in the top notes of 2024 into these recommendations. I came prepared, all right? Like, I thought this through. We are going to talk about lilies. Lilies, I find, are way more survivable in perfumery than in real life. That said, I absolutely adore white lilies in real life. Like, I'm one of those people, you can put like 10 lily bouquets in my bedroom, close the door, close the windows, leave me there for a week, I'll be just fine, all right? But it turns out lilies are toxic and lethal for cats. And I just, as much as it pains me to say, I do really, really love my cat. He is a spoiled little prince, but I love him. So at this point, I decided that I'm going to avoid bringing live lilies into the house, which really pains me because nothing really smells like real lilies, but I'll have to deal with olfactory ones. For those of you who are on the opposite spectrum, you will find that most of the time where any kind of lily associated, whatever is in the headspace of the lilies in real life, those molecules are very, very unlikely to be included in the olfactory compositions when then the marketing team says like, oh, this fragrance contains lilies. It's usually just an olfactory illusion that gives you an impression of some component that relates to how lilies really smell. And in reality, it's very likely to be much safer for you to wear a lily scent on yourself than actually have real bouquet of lilies with you. The first one that I think definitely worth bringing in here is light, ethereal white lilies with incense. This is Passage de Fleur by L'Artisan Parfumeur. Frantic was really not helpful in this case, so I switched to the L'Artisan Parfumeur official website for the description. So, a super old and very famous fragrance in the community. In many ways, this is one of those quintessential L'Artisan Parfumeur must-try fragrances because this is what shaped their brand perception. They always played with this notion of unusual florals. And I knew if I was talking about not your usual floral, something non-trivial and yet elegant, sophisticated, but not squeamish, I would have to talk about some florals, at least a few, from L'Artisan Parfumeur. You could easily make a whole video just with fragrances from this brand that would fit the tag to a T. But if we're talking about Passage de Fleur, these are very floaty, kind of watery lilies, very, very light, very ethereal. In many ways, as people describe it, it's almost entering an empty basilica somewhere on the side street in on one of those European old towns. And the combination of lilies with incense here is so unusual that I can neither cleanly point out where the incense really is. You kind of feel it as an echo, as an aftertaste, as some kind of supporting shadow character. I cannot call this an incensey fragrance. You know what I mean? You're not going to smell like church. And yet there's something so gothic and ethereal about the combination of this white musk, watery, elevated, kind of like a lily song that is married to the lightest fractions of incense imaginable. Also lots and lots of brand history behind this one. I have seen that L'Artisan Parfumeur came up with an extreme version of Passage d'Enfer, and they have a whole body and bath line with it. I am salivating. I am dying to try the extreme version and getting myself some bath products. So if anybody knows anybody at L'Artisan Parfumeur and wants to hook me up, I would be eternally grateful. That said, if you guys want a decant, you know where to find them, all the links down below. And if you have an extreme version in your collection and you want to swap decants or just send me one, please, I will be like, I'll be eternally in your debt, because I really want to try and see what they've made of this iconic historic perfume with the kind of the addition of extreme. Is it more musky? Is it more floral? Is it more sunny? What is it? I love it. I bathe in it in the mornings, especially when I want to feel like an elf. That's my go-to. The next one, Atkinsons, my fair lily. Talked about it to death in a couple of videos, and I'll say it again. The most wearable and believable light high frequency lily on the market. I was surprisingly impressed with it. I didn't expect much. Somehow I don't have the best luck with Atkinsons perfume company, even though I'm supposedly a big fan of British perfume blending, which is kind of this like sophisticated but somewhat puritanist approach to composing any perfume or fragrance. But My Fair Lily is just such a delight. It is exactly what it promises to be without too much deviation to green notes or to muskiness. In comparison to Passage d'Enfer, which is an imaginative perfume, which is an olfactory journey, Lily only plays kind of a sub-role in the overall composition. The Passage d'Enfer doesn't try to say anything too explicitly. My Fair Lily is the lily. It's the morning lily. It's easy to wear. It's charming. It's golden. It's somewhat has this little bit wet green quality. I love it. I love it. I love it. Highly, highly recommend you try it too. Next, we have Fleur de Lalita by Dusita Parfums. Everybody's darling from her line, because this is a very flirtatious but more abstract lily scent, I would say. This is sweeter. This is a little spicier. It has a little bit of this initial scratchiness, which gives it a very cheeky quality. I adore this scent. Every review on Dusita Parfums that I've seen features it, is in the top 3, top 5. So this is definitely a way to explore lilies without being too obvious with the trend. It's also a way to try Dusita, kind of to have like a very positive first impression of the brand, unless you're ready to dive into some of her more complex or vivid and unusual scents. To me, this is just such a cult favorite, and again, it's a very flirtatious, very spring to the summer kind of perfume. I love it, even though I wouldn't put it as my top lily, but it just creates the mood. So here we are, 3 lilies. All, I would dare say, fairly light and easy to wear, with a touch of spiciness and a little bit of the scratchy zestiness, but very, very light. This is nothing serious or difficult. For example, I own Tom Ford Fleur Lee, like his older lily, the one that's already discontinued. I mean, that's a spicy lily. That's not for everyone. This is just such a darling. It's very easy to wear. This, I would say, is a golden standard of morning lily scent, and Passage d'Enfer is perfect on every account. It's lily, it's the trend of this year in scents, it's a historical brand. This is an exceptionally important perfume in their lineup. So if you are a bit of a collector and you want each bottle in your collection to have deeper meaning, that's definitely the one to consider. And here is a subscriber highlight. where we are featuring and celebrating one of you. All right, in my video about the top notes for 2024, the last note I left to you to decide, and here is one of the requests. My vote for the number 5 pick is Creamy Herbal, says Lindsay 9509. I want to smell like a harvest goddess. Wheat, fennel, fenugreek, sesame, caraway, bran, rye, but done in a feminine, creamy way, something Persephone and Demeter would appreciate. Lindsay, there are so many amazing choices for you, but let me show a few. I might personally, just because these are from my personal collection, steer us a little bit more into the herbal, but more of like a floral herbal, as I said, non-usual floral notes, and creamy, not necessarily in terms of rich, kind of like juicy whipped cream or cider or cream soda, but more in the kind of milkier, quieter ways. So that will be my take on it. And there is at least one fragrance that is already ready to that description. There is at least one fragrance I immediately can think of that fits the description to a T. This is Malin and Goetz Stem. Unfortunately, they sold out. It was an independent niche brand, and as far as I remember, they started from skincare and they expanded into fragrance naturally. And I think their fragrance line is now owned by a corporation, but they still exist as a brand. You can buy them easily. So this is that exact, very elusive migration. Depending on the sensitivity of your nose, you will either feel this bright green, refreshing tone, or the creamier, almost lusciously like skincare, creamy floral tone. And for the longest time when I was wearing it, I only felt the fresh and the green notes. And only with time, something happened, and all of a sudden I lost the sensitivity to the greenness and kind of these it's not flamboyant, but more like a sunny, musky nature. It's like it's a little bubbly. It's I don't want to call it a piercing musk. That's ain't Tiziana Terenzi, Kirke. No, don't worry. But it has a little bit of that kind of bright delivery, and I lost it. And all I could feel is this incredible green creaminess. This is a very well-rounded floral. It's very abstract. And again, these kind of murky, I would say duochrome quality of it keeps me guessing. I keep coming to it and waiting to see which part of it will I feel most prominently today. I had a decant from my friend who was kind of confused about the whole line, and I used it up and I begged and begged and begged, and eventually she swapped me a bottle. I dare say in the world of more contemporary and I would say like more like designer scents, the Malin Goetz Stem is one of the things to watch out for. In a general feeling of this creamy versus strong kind of green piercing dichotomy, it reminds me of Ghost in the Shell by Atelier d'Orange, but much more masterfully and believably made. I love it. If I was looking for an herbal creamy musky scent, that would be it. That's just so interesting, and every single time I get a different experience with it. As I was thinking about this very intriguing and almost mystifying combination of notes, it should be herbal and creamy at the same time. It's very easy to find herbal fragrances in the morning eau de colognes, right? Bergamots, citruses, plus a few herbs. In fougères, various kinds of so-called aromatics in fougères, because it's more toward what's usually marketed toward men. And shippers, so-called shippers, when it's patchouli plus yada yada yada, and you can easily add a few herbs there, like some green accents to them. But when it comes to something that's breathable, flirtations, meaning that it's herbal but also floral, semi-sweet, not bitter, not spicy, not austere, and creamy, which we're talking about lactonic notes. I mean, some of the molecular santals could take us there. But then borderline lactonic notes can go really, really condensed milk and whipped cream, which would seem to like really in its ultimate polarizing gourmand fashion kind of be inedible with herbs. And I was thinking, how could they jive together? What would make these two just work like one? And I stumbled upon an amazing combo, very non-trivial, if you just look at the individual fragrances description, which I think delivers to this trend to a T. Okay, we are starting for the beginning and the heart. We're starting with Lilies d'Imaginaire, Fleur de Sable. I will show you the description of this fragrance while I'm spraying the tester. You wouldn't guess that that's herbal, would you? Just by the description of it. And yet to me it is. This is not your usual rose. This is not peppery. Like if you look at the notes, I would be hard pressed to identify any of that in the literal sense, how usually peppery notes present themselves in perfumery, or paprika or iris or rose to that matter. None of that registers to my nose. What I feel is these semi-sweet, I guess rose here to me presents itself as more of a kind of rose tea. It is semi-sweet, dry, herbal mixture. That is, yeah, maybe a little bit more spicy, but it feels to me like dry herbs, like these like dried little bouquets of all kinds of flowers, including roses, that you just like put on little thread and you just dry them in your little cottage in the south of France, I imagine. What's been bothering me about Fleur de Sable is that it lacked either kind of the poisonous clarity of herbaceousness, neither it had a lot of rose or sweetness behind the rose or fruitiness. It just seemed neither here nor there. Maybe it's exactly what it's supposed to be, but again, when it comes to the spiciness of it, this is black pepper, pink pepper, obviously none of the actual peppers. Nothing is literally grinded and added to the mixture. It's more just like an olfactory map to give us something to talk about, like what it could smell like to many people. But it doesn't register for me at all. Like I cannot relate to this description whatsoever. But I can relate to these dried little bouquets that include roses and all kinds of other herbs and flowers. And they are just many of them in this dry and sunny room on a like August afternoon. And that's what I smell. But it kind of lacks interest, it lacks depth a little bit, and it lacks base to my liking. It kind of stays a little monotonic through time. And as I was thinking, gosh, this could be perfect if only it was creamy, if only it had some kind of a backbone base that would keep it denser, would keep it intact. And I was thinking, and I got it. Semi-modern vetiver by Tat Libre d'Orange. Sebum, milk, and kind of slightly metallic vetiver. By itself, I dare say it's a little boring. I tried and tried to fall in love with it by itself, but to me, this is essentially that creamy base, that kind of lactonic, milky, quiet but solid foundation on which you can layer nearly any other note that in your mind combines itself well with milky, frothy, kind of lactonic type of a base. Not too sweet, not too gourmand, and together. The vetiver, the slightly metallic vetiver, combines itself with these dried herbs and florals in the most beautiful way. It gives them its central kind of spine note, and the quiet lactonic sweetness enhances this kind of rose tea that's present in the Fleur de Sable. They are so beautiful together. You gotta try them. I thought about it and I decided, you know what? For a price of a latte, you can have a duo, 5 ml each. I'm giving away until there's something left because I already have I have a backup. I will leave a link for you below. You can get a creamy herbal, the trend, the your choice of a trend, the subscriber trend in 2024, to layer them if you want to, or wear them separately. Both are fairly unique and very highly reputable niche brands, so each of them has value in itself. But guys, together, this is the epitome of the creamy herbal trend. I am so ecstatic I found it. All right, here we are, your creamy herbals. I think this is a good start. If you guys have other candidates in your mind, leave a comment below. We might come back to it maybe sometime in the summer, for that hay season. I think that will be a good idea. Let me know what you think and let's move on. Watch me doing magic and weaving in several trends of 2024 into one video. Now we're going to talk about Narcissus or Daffodils. I knew immediately as I announced the soft leather trend which of my relatively new fragrances had to make it into my spring rotation, because Mont de Narcisse by L'Artisan Parfumeur, and I told you they have dozens of stellar candidates for non-trivial florals. It's just, there's one niche brand where you can just dive into and get yourself a full bucket of really imaginative and very complex florals, that will be one. L'Artisan Parfumeur. This is one of their newer offerings, and if I showed you what's written on the website, I don't think any of us would be much the wiser. The only thing that you're probably smiling with me already. The only thing that it really cleanly weaves in terms of the trends, it's a soft, floral, unusual feminine leather. Yes, it is. They have done it again. But when it comes to what it actually smells like, even if we kind of slide toward the notes, let's go down. Not helpful. To me, this was not helpful at all. So what I actually detect there is much more interesting and yet much more simple. It just makes me smile. This is the first fragrance that I've ever smelled that smells like bananas, like dried bananas. I can feel dried bananas in here, and I love dried bananas. Not banana chips, but the dried ones that are gooey and delicious. I swear to God, it's the most delicious, unusual, happy smell. There are not many, I feel, that are left unexplored these days, thanks to the advances in the modern organic chemistry. We've seen it all. And yet I keep finding things that surprise me, which is the best combination of all, right? So maybe it's what marketers describe here as vanilla birch plus osmanthus. Osmanthus, it's kind of like peachy smell, essentially. Maybe. But to me, it opens up with dried bananas. Then you transition, and again, it moves so much. It transitions. The metamorphosis of these fragrances just are so intriguing to watch. It starts with a very bright, the semi-sweet, maybe for some people will be birch, vanilla plus peach. For me, it's dried bananas. And then within 10 minutes, you feel strong green, a little viscous daffodil. Maybe it's plum too. God knows what makes it so delicious. But it loses that initial flirtatious nature, which I think it's actually good because it's super yummy, it's super fun, but it's not very serious. It's kind of one of those just like moments, like delightful moments that if lasts forever might kind of cheapen the impression of the perfume and might not be suitable for work, I feel. But the beginning of it's just delightful. And then you kind of transition out of this flirtatious sweetness, and then you go into somewhat viscous or kind of stem, like the stem of daffodils, florality. And the more time passes, the more serious and conservative it becomes. In the dry down, it's almost melancholic. It's this herbaceous, demure leather. It's very thinly weaved, it's very elegant, but it's almost a little depressed. It's like a very expensive leather clutch that got seasonal depression going on. This is why this is a must if you're willing to reapply it. I find that this fragrance just does wonders to my mood, and it's so interesting to watch. And this is the one that if you're an oversprayer, ain't gonna help you, because it has a very distinct longitudinal footprint. Like the longer you are with it, the more it changes. And it's such an amazing journey to witness. I love it. So Mont de Narcisse by L'Artisan Parfumeur. Dried bananas, daffodils, and soft leather. And if you want to try it pain-free and wear it for a month just to fit the spring mood, you know, right? Now you know where to get it. It's all in the description down below. We're moving on. Tulip. I spent so much money looking for tulips. I was at that point wise enough that I started begging for decants and buying decants. So it could be worse. But I tried Tulip by Byredo. It's not tulip to my taste at all. Like, it's very abstract floral. Anyway, I don't know what that was. I found a believable tulip. Let me show you here, but this is a very this is a hard to find brand now because it's made in Russia. It used to be more or less feasible to find it in various countries in Eastern Europe, but now unless you have connection to contraband, it's going to be very hard. So really delightful combination of tulip and mimosa, very believable. This is Brocard Aromas of Nature. If you translate it, the whole line is an absolute gem. If you have access to it anywhere, I imagine in Europe you might get it from Ukraine, you might get it from any of the kind of like neighboring countries. Try it. It's not, I don't know what the prices are, because now with all the parallel kind of gray market and how things are moving in that region, I have no idea what things cost these days. Let's not go there. But if you have access to it, this whole Aramati Prirode, the gifts of nature, the aromas of nature line is delightful. And by the way, that's the one that contains the best, the most believable lilac, fragrant lilac in the world. This one. But hard to find, even though it's a budget-friendly experimental fragrance brand. So when it comes to tulip, eventually I stumbled upon Atelier Bloem Extraordinary Tulip, and that changed the way I see tulips in perfumery. It never ceases to amaze me that it's usually the best of the best of the best are scattered across a very large world. And it's not one perfumer, it's not one brand, you really have to navigate the world of niche in order to find the gems. Very few people talk about Atelier Bloem. I made a whole brand review. If you're curious, you can watch their whole lineup. They're also one of the brands, in my mind, similar to L'Artisan Parfumeur, Atkinsons, some of the florals from Penhaligon's. Their blending is very naturalistic, very botanical, very watercolory. It's sophisticated. At the same time, it's non-invasive, it's soft, it's nuanced. Just think in terms of like the world of two-dimensional art, what watercolor is versus oil painting or pastels, right? So very watercolorly yet nuanced and sophisticated. If we look at the description, you can see that it is fresh, green, and floral. And it's more than that. I swear to God, it's a paragon of how tulips ought to be in the fragrant world. If you're a perfumer, please try it. You will not be disappointed. So beautiful. I mean, the notes, again, they don't tell me much. And yet, there are some vague comparisons to other tulip-named fragrances, but I dare say I tried La Tulipe by Barreto. I tried the Bond 9. Nothing comes even close into how beautifully weaved the notes are in the Extraordinary Tulip by Atelier Bloem. It's a masterpiece by them, absolutely. And I agree with the comments. Look at that. Like, it is magical. It's ingenious. When it comes to tulips, Extraordinary Tulips by Atelier Bloem is ingenious and worth studying. If you need a decant, you know, right? I know, you know, I know, we know. Mimosa. How could I leave you without mimosa? You know me. I'm not gonna leave you hanging. The quintessential spring scent, which is not your usual rose or jasmine or freesia or whatever white floral. And it is a third L'Artisan Parfumeur. Trust me, I try to resist. I try to restrict myself, and I had to negotiate it down to 3. They just have so many amazing, imaginative, magical floral scents. It's hard. It's genuinely hard. So, Mimosa Pour Moi is creamy mimosa. It's a light one. It has hints of powderiness. It has hints of kind of this makeup bag smell. To me, it's kind of creamier watercolor mimosa among many that I've tried. A lot of mimosas are in your nose floral or very kind of yellow florals. Yet most of them that I've tried in the kind of mass and luxury market, I tried Monte Carlo. I tried more of a designer and affordable says. I tried many mimosas, and yet this one, as light as it is, and as kind of makeupy and creamy as it is, it still contains all the necessary facets, just in very light brush strokes. It's just a little powdery, just a little zesty, just a little green, just a little sweet. Overall, though, in comparison, for me, it's very makeupy. It has this like lipstick feel to it a little bit. I love it. It's already huffed, but it's not my favorite. My favorite mimosa scent is, this is gonna be hard for you to hear, guys, but I gotta show it. I gotta pay respect to this olfactory creation. Discontinued hyper luxury, meaning boutique line by a luxury brand. This is a boutique line of Dolce&Gabbana. It's like much more expensive than the usual offerings, and it's called Velvet Mimosa Bloem. Almost all of the premium line by Dolce&Gabbana has been discontinued, but this mimosa, I kept waiting and searching for a zesty. Like, to me, in my memory, mimosa, especially its branches, it has these kind of grabby, scratchy, zesty green powderiness to it. The flowers themselves can be softer, smoother, and powdery, but there is something when you, especially when you have a lot of branches of mimosa in one place, it gets almost a little vicious. It has a bit of that quality. Let me know if you know if you can relate to how I'm describing the mimosa branches. And this has it. This is the best, the most believable, bright, long-lasting, interesting mimosa scent on the market, and unfortunately it is discontinued. You can still get yourself a decant from me, but I warned you, ain't gonna be easy to find a full-size bottle. But it's so beautiful. Like, I mean, if I had to, that's it. That's my go-to mimosa, guys. That's just the truth. And again, watch me do my magic. Remember, one of the trends reported in Atkinsons was coconutty scents, kind of like tropical, sweet scents. Coconut is great, but it's not a floral. But the next best, and I dare say more interesting twist on that kind of tropicalia scent, is Frangipani, not your usual floral. And you know why? I got two for you that are perfect for spring and early summer. Usually when we hear about Frangipani being part of any scent, it's gonna be like this fruit bowl with vanilla, coconut. It's gonna be creamy. It's gonna be super gourmand. It's gonna be super sweet. And there's ain't anything wrong with that. I have those. I love them. I wear them. Okay? We're good. But not your usual spring Frangipani. That's where it gets way more interesting. Imagine weaving in this flower that essentially smells like fruits. It's like it has a very tropical, fruity smell, weaving it in with lighter, more unusual notes. And we're gonna start from Laboratorio Olfattivo Bali Flora. Jean-Claude Ellena is the master of weaving in citruses and kind of these somewhat swampy, oceanic, citrusy notes with anything you can think of, and especially fruits. Like the Jardin, the gardens line of Hermes, that's where he actually started getting his fame for how minimalistic yet beautiful the citrusy, fruity compositions could be, how unusual they could be. I dare say this is the best yet. I find that the now esteemed gardens from Hermes are somewhat hard for me to wear, and I prefer them in the bath line rather than in the fragrance line. But Bali Flora, it's where Jean-Claude Ellena combined Frangipani with oceanic, ozonic, and somewhat salty notes. Can you imagine that? We're not talking about SPF smell. So there is no this heavy, creamy, coconutty scenting here, which is fine. I love it too. It's just been done to death. You know what I mean? Like, this is so imaginative. It's the pure salty air and this kind of like ozonic freshness that is, I don't know how, just blends seamlessly into the tropical nature of Frangipani. I wore this in the dry heat of Yerevan in Armenia last June, and I die. If you love florals, if you appreciate florals, think about how hard it is to make something new, something unusual, something surprising in that area. And to combine salty oceanic notes, ozonic notes, with Frangipani of Vole flowers. Gorgeous. So gorgeous and so underestimated Baliflora is. I am in awe in how this is made. Just in awe. Link is down below, just so you know. More full-hearted, more summery option that we must consider is made by Sylvain Delacourt, that left her corporate fragrance career to start her own niche brand. And in one of her lines, the first two were about musk and vanilla. In the vanilla line, she produced a delightful tropical Frangipani light-hearted vanilla scent that's called Vanori. Just look at this. Again, I was a bit afraid that it would be yet another SPF, coconutty Frangipani fruit salad, and it isn't. It is light-hearted, it's romantic, and it actually has a lot of projection. This is why I'm not spraying it, because even though it is kind of operates on this heart to higher frequencies, it's not a gourmand, it's not heavy, it's not sticky, it's not syrupy. It has a lot of movement. It has a lot of projection. It immediately fills the room. It's the one that I would highly recommend to use if you want to leave a trail behind you. Better in bigger spaces than smaller spaces. If you're in a small space, use just one spray. That will be enough. It has a lot of silage, as they say. It's diffusive. It moves in space, and it has such a romantic, light, flirtatious trail. Here we don't have that contrast of something ozonic, salty, and oceanic. Here it's just what you expect from sunny tropical florals, but florals, right? We're not diving straight into the fruit salad bowl. I love it. I always get compliments when I wear it, because this is what people really love. Men and women, that's what people love on women. Maybe it's a gender cliche, but these kind of flirty, romantic florals, they're just crowd pleasers. This is something that almost every person who ever could have sniffed the trail that I left behind was like, oh, this is so wonderful. You smell amazing. What is it? That's the one. And that brings us to the finish line of these not your usual floral fragrance collection and the wardrobe for you for the spring. Please let me know if you have any thoughts of your own. What would you recommend we collectively consider and add to this stash of unusual and delightful florals for spring, or like for year round? After all, it's fall in Australia. We're not going to leave our friends behind on the other side of this earth, all right? We're all in it together. Not your usual florals, year-round, winter, spring, cold, warm, dry, humid. Let's get them all on this list. And with that, I want you to feel especially sizzling hot when you click on that like and subscribe button, because now I bring you the song, the outro song that you've been waiting for. Move a little, click a little, leave a comment, enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.
Hey there, you've reached the end, but don't just depart. Hit like, subscribe, it's a way to take part. Your support, your love, it's an art. Together we grow, play our part in this job. It's more than a click, it's a bridge, a connection, a way to sustain. To fuel this this direction, each like each sub. A show perfection, we're in this together, seeking perfection. Like and subscribe, be the vibe, keep us alive. In this digital sea, it's how we thrive. Your support is the core, the drive. In this world of content, we're the prototype. Donations, contributions that keep the lights on. Fueling our passion from dusk till dawn. It's not just content, it's a bond that's strong. With your help, we keep moving on. Yeah, that's true.